Political Leader of the United National Congress, the Honorable Kamala Prasad Bisesa, Senior Counsel, members of the viewing audience, my fellow presenters here tonight, citizens of Trinidad and Tobago all, I wish you a good night. Elections, ladies and gentlemen, as we are soon starting to realize, elections have consequences. You have heard speakers here tonight from this podium, and you have heard them from previous nights on this very same platform, telling you how quickly this government has taken this country down a road of no return. Elections have consequences, ladies and gentlemen. And if you ever doubted that, my brothers and sisters, look around you. Look at what our country has become. We have fallen, ladies and gentlemen, on every single indicator, every social and economic indicator of development and growth. We have fallen as a country over the last 6.5 years. We have moved, ladies and gentlemen, in 6.5 short years from a developing country with employment creation happening throughout Trinidad and Tobago to a state where every day citizens in this country are thrown on the breadline. We have moved from a growing economy under Kamala Prasad Bisesa, thriving business sector, a land of educational opportunity for all. We have moved from a country with a targeted social sector support program in place. We have moved from a place where crime was falling. That is where we have moved from. We have moved from a place, ladies and gentlemen, where we were building schools, police stations, bridges, fire stations, roads, throughout the length and breadth of this country. We have moved, ladies and gentlemen, from a place of equality and equity, from a place of hope and initiative, to this level of absolute hopelessness, frustration, and depression that Trinidad and Tobago is suffering from today. The reason for that, ladies and gentlemen, is because we have moved from a caring prime minister with a people-centered vision to an egotistical, arrogant individual who gloats publicly about breaking the law, about undermining the integrity of Trinidad and Tobago, of independent institutions, reportedly because he could not get an individual to spend millions of taxpayers' dollars, your dollars, to satisfy a personal political vendetta. That is the legacy of the PNM. And that is what they have delivered over the last 6.5 years. And that is what, unfortunately, we can expect to continue for as long as they remain in office. And it's not just Rowley. Recent reports of allegations of actions by the same Attorney General we were hearing about before to prosecute and persecute a very senior state employee who refused to act contrary to his legitimate beliefs shows that not just the Prime Minister, but the then Attorney General and several of his other ministers, they believe that they are accountable to no one, not to you, not to the Trinidad and Tobago that voted for them, not even to God, because the level of corruption and mismanagement and hate that this government has for Trinidad and Tobago and for citizens is unprecedented in our history. They have become a law unto themselves, willing to break every law as they see fit in the hope that they will get away scot-free. The only persons, ladies and gentlemen, that this government is concerned about, and you would have heard it said here many times, is about their friends, family, and financiers. And that continues even today. The Attorney General has several questions to answer. But you know, instead of firing him, as they should have, this man's still collecting your taxpayers' dollars in salary and in rent and in other forms of business. That is the level of disrespect that this government has for citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. You see, ladies and gentlemen, under Keith Christopher Rowley and the PNM, democracy has been murdered. Democracy is dead, ladies and gentlemen, until and unless we stand up and fight back. It is said that democracy is championed best when we have a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Tonight I want to ask you, who do you think this government is for? It is supposed to be for the people. Do you think, ladies and gentlemen, for one moment, that this Prime Minister and his cabinet are for you? You think that they are for the average citizens of Trinidad and Tobago? You think that when the cabinet sits in office and the Prime Minister presides, that they are considering laws, they are considering actions to take decisions that will improve the life of ordinary citizens? If that was so, wouldn't your life have improved in some measure by now? But you see, it's not. Their focus is friends, family, and financiers. And that is why every time somebody blinks in cabinet, a government minister has to get up and excuse himself because some deal benefiting someone of his family comes to the table. So they get up and they go outside for a few minutes while their friends sit inside and vote in favor of the deal. All of these people scratching each other's backs. And who paying for that, ladies and gentlemen? You. Taxpayers. Every morning we have to wake up and we have to hear about some janjat, some bubble, some corruption involving this Prime Minister and this cabinet. And it is not just about Bacchanal, ladies and gentlemen, because it is your tax dollars that is funding their couture. It is your tax dollars that is jumping up. Ladies and gentlemen, between when you woke up this morning and now, this government has spent 159 million of your tax dollars. Are you feeling that? Are you feeling that, ladies and gentlemen? In the last 6.5 years, Rowley, Imbert, Faris, Young, and their gang have spent over $330 billion. That is $330,000 million. Are you feeling that, ladies and gentlemen? Because you should. You see, when they came in, they inherited a growing economy, a developing society, and all they had to do, the groundwork was already there, is to continue the momentum. With all these billions being spent, you think that you would have had some sort of improvement in the quality of your life. You should have had better education system, decent roads, a better security system, social support, agricultural development, a reliable water supply, affordable and accessible healthcare, something, ladies and gentlemen, to show value for money. But this is what happens when you put a man in charge whose focus is not on the benefit of citizens, but the few and favored friends and financiers. This is a man who would pick up a phone and call his friend when he hears of a report that his friend was allegedly involved in a fake oil scandal, but will not lift a finger, would not move a muscle when he would bounce down a woman on a golf course, or when 4 tax-paying citizens would lose their life in a tragic incident. And the saddest part about that is that they are coming to spend more of your money. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if they spend $330 billion in 6.5 years and could not address the problems facing you, citizens of this country, in 6.5 years, what do you think that is going to happen for the next few years if we let them go? It will get worse, ladies and gentlemen. I am curious too. I want to know from the Honorable Colm Imbert, how in the world do you spend billions of dollars and still manage to make the economy worse? How do you do that? It takes a certain level of incompetence to be so badly off. You know, when Kamla Prasad Bissessar left government, The value of goods and services provided and produced in this country had grown to $164 billion. Today, after 6.5 years of calm inbirth, we are producing $30 billion less. This contraction of our economy comes from one reason. It is here because of one factor. It is here, ladies and gentlemen, because of a crisis of confidence. And that crisis of confidence has been generated by this government from day one, when Imbert ran in front of the media and started complaining and started crying that the country was running on fumes, that it had no money. It is ironic that a country that had no money was able to receive in revenues over $50 billion on that very same year, proving that what Imbert was saying was not true. But you see, this is what happens when you lie and you seek to deceive. The country was running on fumes, he said. What happened since is that he set in place a trend of activities from which investor confidence in Trinidad and Tobago has been destroyed. That is why businesses have been closing down. That is why people are losing jobs. That is why things have become infinitely more difficult in this country to make a living for honest citizens. That is why we have children coming out of universities with degrees after their parents and themselves have sacrificed to go to school, but are unable to find a job. That is why we have lawyers driving taxi cars now, while the judicial system is underfunded, understaffed, and is failing. That is why we have children who are doctors, who are working quick shops, while the health sector remains underfunded, understaffed, and in crisis. But you see, elections have consequences, and we are all suffering as a result of this. You see, while all of this is happening, you have a government telling you that things are getting more and more difficult for them too. Things are hard for them according to this government because they have no money. They are telling you that they must introduce property tax because they need the money. They have no money. They are spending your savings. They are selling your assets. They are taxing you even more because according to them, they have no money. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is an absolute lie. Because there is money. And they are spending the money every year. Every day, I just told you. Substantial amount of money spent every single day. $150-something odd million per day. There is money there. But they're not spending it on you because you are not the priority of this government. Who are the priorities, ladies and gentlemen? Friends, family, financiers. That's all they care about. And while they're spending the money, they're picking the pocket of citizens. The Heritage and Stabilization Fund was created by statute. It was a Panday creation, not a PNM creation that they had claimed before. It was a Panday creation. It was created by statute to allow for a level of savings of energy revenues. Those funds have been invested abroad in US-denominated investments by a board of directors advised by professional and competent companies, investment companies. Now, by the time the fund had been reconfigured in 2007, it held US $1.8 billion. And despite the multiple challenges facing Trinidad and Tobago from 2007 to 2015, do you know, ladies and gentlemen, that no other government interfered with it? It was allowed to grow. It took 10 years for the fund to reach, 15 years, sorry, from 2007 to 2015. From 2000 to 2015, 15 years. 2000 it was first created. It took 15 years for the fund to reach $5.7 billion US, which was the value of the fund when Kamla Prasad Bisasa demitted office. Remember, $5.7 billion in savings. That was one of the multiple nest eggs that was left for calm Imbut. one of the multiple nest eggs, but he said it was bankrupt, the country was bankrupt. Under Kamla Prasad Bisesa, that fund grew by $2 billion. Would you believe that under Colm Imbert, that fund contracted by how much? $2 billion. What it took years and years and years, 15 years to achieve, to build over time. This man has gone in. And you know that every single morning we get up, we have to hear about Imbert dipping into the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. And again, with nothing to show for it. Nothing to show for it. But international credit rating agencies are watching this. Because every time you extract money from your savings, they start to wonder whether or not you are able to meet your obligations. And that is why all of these international credit rating agencies have downgraded this government, have downgraded the performance of this Minister of Finance from day one. From 2015 to now, we have been continuously downgraded by international credit institutions. And that adds to the crisis of confidence, because what that downgrade means is that the international institutions, which advise investors, they believe that you are having a greater and greater likelihood of not being able to meet your debt obligations. So the government is borrowing, they're selling your assets, they're picking the pockets in the Heritage and Stabilization Fund, and while they're doing all of that, they're taxing you some more too, without creating the space, without creating the basis on which they can pay back the debts. Citizens are being penalized for this government's incompetence and lack of foresight, lack of planning, and lack of vision. You know, Imbert wants you to believe that there's no money. But I want to refer to you all, in the few minutes I have left, I want to refer to you all, ladies and gentlemen, to where the money went. Somewhere in Trinidad and Tobago, there's a man sitting down counting $400 million, money spent by NGC, that have been written off by this government. $400 million, somebody counting. It has been written off as if it never existed. And instead of holding the board of NGT to account, the Prime Minister says, hey, they have done a really good job, because this government is about covering up corruption. But you know why corruption is dangerous? Because it robs you of assets. It robs you of the ability to have your children enjoy educational opportunity. It robs us of infrastructure. That money, that's that $400 million in corruption, could have been spent to fix every road in this country. It could have been spent to provide health care for every citizen, surgeries for every citizen. Every citizen. But you see, under this government, corruption has become a rule of law. As I wrap, ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind you of why this government has facilitated corruption. According to the chairman of the Office of Procurement Regulation, Mr. Munilal Lalchan, Mr. Lalchan is on public record as saying on an annual basis, $5.2 billion of state contracts is lost through what? Corruption. $5.2 billion. All this government needed to do to be able to have the resources to do what they asked to do, what you expect from them. All they had to do was put the procurement legislation in place. But ask yourself now why they didn't. Why are they coming after workers? Why are they sacrificing employees of WASA? Why are they selling the resources of the state? Why are they selling off in landslide, fire sale? It is to their friends, family, and financiers. And that's why they are covering up the corruption, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, I want to ask citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, this will not get better until we make it so. They have come after 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And as my brother Sean said, they came after many, they're coming after the rest. Unless and until we unite to get rid of this corrupt, incompetent, malicious government, Trinidad and Tobago will continue to suffer. We in the UNC stand firm behind Kamla Prasad Bisesa, We stand firm as a loyal, dedicated opposition to tell you that we will not take this line down. Join us, Trinidad and Tobago. Let us return this country to where it's supposed to have been. Let us restore and rebuild Trinidad and Tobago. Let us get this government where they're supposed to be, out of office. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much.